Okay, I'm back. Yeah, this is Fred Schultz again. I'm running for president. We ran out of time on the last video. I wanted to explain a little bit more how the war on drugs has been an abject failure. Now, first of all, I know that we have, as I said in the last video, 50 deaths on the streets every day, mostly due to the drug war. Now, just to show you, yes, our gun death rate is many multiples, 3 times that of Norway and 7 times that of Switzerland, and all the other countries are less than Switzerland. So here's the chart. In other words, we have 10 times the gun deaths of most countries. That's due to the war on drugs. Now, in case drug prohibition, which, as I said, I know is unconstitutional, I'll end it day one. Now, just in case you think, oh, well, the war on drugs has been a success. No. Number one, in case you didn't know this, we interdict under 1% of all the drugs that come into this country. I mean, have you ever noticed that whenever they arrest a big drug, quote, kingpin, the price of drugs doesn't budge a penny? That's just how it is. That's the proof. They're not even making a dent. Now, on top of that, drug use of both prescription and, non-prescription illegal drugs has gone through the roof. Now, before we go on about this, let me just explain something. When we legalize drugs, and I do mean when, and I do mean we, when we legalize drugs, it's not that there'll be more stronger drugs. It's because they're illegal that the prescription ones are used. They're not only synthetic, but they're more concentrated. When you have them legal, you can have them being organic, homegrown, and they are much less concentration. In other words, when you're buying like opium, from the jungle in Thailand, it's like probably 1/10 or 1/20th the strength of heroin. And heroin is 1/100th the strength of fentanyl. Now, where does OxyContin fit in there? It's probably around the same strength as heroin. Now, yes, there's about 15,000 OxyContin deaths a year, and those deaths probably wouldn't be happening when we legalize drugs because more people would be going more towards the natural ones, I believe. However, the deaths that really wouldn't be happening is the fentanyl deaths. And the fentanyl deaths just went from 5,000 of 2 years ago to 30,000 last year. They're going through the roof because people think that they're getting heroin and they're getting fentanyl. And fentanyl is 100 times stronger. So they accidentally die. They don't want to die. They accidentally die. Cocaine deaths have gone from 5,500 to 7,500 in the last 2 years because people are starting to cut cocaine with fentanyl. Although cocaine can be dangerous on its own. That's true. You can do it once and die, as we all know. Maybe you don't know that. But let's talk for a second. You know what the most dangerous drug in the world is? Sugar. It's the most addictive drug. It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine. It's the most deadly drug. Just for some rough figures, you know how many people all illegal drugs combined kill a year? 200,000. You know how many people sugar kills a year? It's estimated 36 million. 2/3 of all deaths. Cancer, heart disease, probably Alzheimer's, a million things. Oh, obesity, diabetes. So it's not just, death. It's suffering. It's torture. It's big medical bills. Okay. Now, let me show you the chart here. This will help to explain it. This is all drug deaths from overdoses. They say it's overdoses, but it's also just eating the wrong drug or smoking it. This is 1980, under 10,000. This is when they started the war on drugs in 1970, back here. By 1980, under 10,000, looks like about 6,000, 7,000 drug deaths. Now it's up to 70,000, but you notice a spike in the last 10 years? This is due to fentanyl. And the last 3, 4, 5 years. This is due to fentanyl. These are all fentanyl deaths, and this is total drug deaths. So fentanyl is causing 30,000. The second you legalize drugs, and you make it so that either people can buy it, from their local shop, lady down the street who has a farm and just brews something at home, or from, pharmaceutical companies, which at least you'll know the strength exactly. You'll know the purity exactly. Those were the initial drug laws in our country. Strength and purity. We've only had prescription drugs in this country for 70 years, if you can believe it. I would also do away with prescription drugs. Day one. Now, I would love it if the legislatures will go along with me on this. But if they don't, I don't consider these drug laws constitutional. And I will stop these drug laws. That will make prescription drug costs tank. Because most of the cost is due to the fact that they have to go through a lot of testing. Now, to be paid for by the government, you'll have to do some testing. But however, no, I also think it's a good idea to have any doctor be allowed to prescribe anything. So that way, it's not the government set of doctors deciding what's right for you. It's your own doctor, or you in conjunction with your doctor. But just to get the government to pay, we'll have to have a doctor behind approving it. But really, I do think it's a good idea to have some. In the end, it's better to have some free drugs than crime. That's just how it is. Everybody can have a small allotment, but free drugs is a lot better than murders. Okay, now let's look at this. Here's another example. Here's another chart showing the same thing. This is showing that all drug use has gone from 1999 to 2017. Number of deaths. It's gone from about, each one of these had about 5,000 deaths. Now they have over 10,000. But look, heroin, cocaine, benzodiazepines, psychostimulants. By the way, amphetamines, I mean, they give 3% of children these ADHD amphetamines. It's a crime. I mean, I'm not saying it should be illegal. I'm just saying kids shouldn't be doing this stuff. Okay, here, now we have another homicides in Mexico. Oh, they were at 13,849 in the year 2000. Now they're at 25,339 in the year 2017. So drug deaths and homicides in Mexico have more than doubled. These are all due to our drug laws. Our USA drug laws. They're killing people around the world. Now, the homicide rates, if you're wondering why all these people are running for their lives to the U.S., the U.S. has a homicide rate, let me see here. We had 17,250 deaths. I think this is 2017. Homicide rate of 5.35 per 100,000. Look, I mean, over here we have Honduras, 5,000 something deaths. Homicide rate of 56 per 100,000. That's more than 10 times ours. El Salvador, 5,000 something deaths. 82, over 82. In other words, that's about 15 times our murder rate. Let's see, Mexico, 24,559 deaths. That's a homicide rate of 19.26. That's 4 times our homicide rate about. And those are the ones they count. They stop counting after a while. This is a nightmare. Okay, now let me just read you some facts very quickly. First of all, here's one more chart showing that even though crime has been going down since 1990, we kept arresting people even though crime was going down. Now, you could say, oh, well, crime is going down because we're arresting so many people. That might be true, somewhat. But if you arrest everyone, of course there's no crime outside of jail. But inside of jail, there's a lot of crime. Torture, beatings, and most of these people have never hurt anyone. As I said, 85% of the drug deaths are not even of dealers. Now, before we go on, if you say to yourself, well, Fred, okay, I'll get to these other Drug Policy Alliance facts later, but if you say to me, well, Fred, how about the Norway model, which is the Portugal model, which is we allow sales of small amounts. Oh, no, we allow possession of small amounts. But if you're caught, say, and you're a lawyer like me, and say you're caught with a joint, and then if you're caught with another joint, you lose your license. You might even lose your license if you're caught with like an ounce of cocaine or half an ounce or whatever, however much people do. Now, top of that, if you, quote, reoffend, you go back to jail for the full amount of time. Second of all, just follow me on this for a second. If you're only allowed to possess a small amount of, say, cocaine, but not buy it, then the people selling it aren't allowed to sell it. So those people selling it, there's still this big battle between the police and the sellers. So they're still attacking the sellers. You'll still have, therefore, gangs. Even if you just, quote, tax and regulate, the taxation rate will probably be 30, 40, 50%. Regulation means that you're, interdicting what isn't allowed. That means you still have this cops and dealers battle going on, which is dangerous to innocents, it's dangerous to dealers, and it's dangerous to police, who are getting killed a lot. All these, and it's also just dangerous, as I said, regular civilians out there trying to buy some drugs. However, remember, let's get back to all this. Remember, if you are somebody trying to buy illegal drugs, drugs are illegal, say that you're not allowed to buy an amount from anybody. You won't be busted for possessing it, but you're not allowed to buy it. Then people will still be cutting their shit with fentanyl. You'll still have 30,000 deaths a year, or next year it'll be 40, 50, 60, who knows? Maybe the next year 100. I'm telling you, those death numbers will shoot through the roof because of any amount of illegality. Now, you could say to me, well, Fred, if it's legal, isn't that a symbol that it's good for you? No, we have to get away from that concept that only good things are legal. I mean, sugar, as I said, is legal, and it's the most deadly drug out there by far, and it is addictive, and it does make you high. Have you ever seen little children take sugar and go, "La, la, 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 la"? They call it a sugar high, and everybody knows there's a crash after it. Anyway, kids go crazy on sugar, and nobody should be giving their children or anybody's children sugar. It's disgusting. I do believe even it's addictive, and it's not a good idea even at parties. Give them fruit. There's a little sugar, but there's a lot of fiber, and it's natural. It's not nearly as harmful. I mean, the fact is, associating good, like, say, birthdays or religious events or with sugar means that children will then, for the rest of their lives, associate love with sugar and past happiness with sugar. It's just a formula for killing your child. And if you're giving it to somebody else's child, it's really child abuse. It's just horrible. Now, if you say, well, if you make it legal, that's a sign that the government approves. No, it's just a sign that the government is butting out. But I will tell you this. Making something illegal makes most people, especially teenagers, want to do it more, not less. Which is why our alcohol rules, as I discussed